for the survivors. We weren't given that information, only that we needed to have money to be put in the ground, into the ground. And so as a result of that, my interest was piqued at that time, and I couldn't have been more than 5 years old when this was going on in my life. And I grew on up. As I grew on up, and attended high school, and then went on to college at North Texas State University, NTSU at that time, now UNT. I was a business administration major, and believe it or not, the most interesting course in business administration was insurance. I really loved my insurance class, made an A in it too. And but I had no idea, even then, that this is what God and where God was leading me. It didn't happen, and that was back in the 60s when I was at North Texas State. And life went on. I had a few jobs. I worked with Ernst & Ernst, which was one of the big 8 CPA firms at the time in the U.S. I worked with Xerox Corporation, where I got into the sales part of my major. And I actually sold copiers for Xerox and telecopiers, as well as word processors. And I got into the word processors where I taught classes and supported the sales teams. And but again, somewhere in the back of my head, there was always insurance. We had a very good friend who at that time worked for a big company called New York Life. And he had come over and introduced us to really good insurance, something that I hadn't heard about as a child growing up. It was called life insurance. It wasn't just called burial insurance. But at the same time, life insurance buries us.
Yeah.
And so we took advantage of buying a life insurance plan with New York Life at that time, and it was a very good plan. We felt like it, and something that we hadn't been accustomed to. And from there, life continued on, and I ended up with a back injury. And at the same time, I was introduced almost simultaneously to insurance, and decided I think I want to be a part-time agent. So I went ahead and took the insurance exam, and I did pass it on my first time taking it, which was a real good thing and exciting thing for me to do. And I then began working with trying to meet people and introduce them to a better insurance plan, because there were better out there. And I was working with some of the companies that offered much, much better products than had been brought to our families. So it was really exciting for me, and I began to just feel like this is the niche. This is where the Lord is placing me. And I just, honestly, the excitement and the fulfillment that I received just anytime that I was able to place someone in a good policy with a good company, it really made me feel good about the fact that I was doing something good for my people. And I know that we needed that. We had not been offered it, which is something I hate to think about, but we just weren't offered the better products back earlier in our lives. All we had was burial. Now we have life insurance, and life insurance is burial insurance as well. And so from there, it has evolved. For now, 25 years, I've been a licensed agent here in the state of Texas, and I've met a lot of people, and I've had to see a lot of situations where people who have died and the family had no insurance to bury their loved ones, and they have had to, in essence, pass the hat, if you will, or take up collections, or do all kinds of things, have fish dinners or whatever, some way to try to accumulate enough money to bury their loved ones, because some had just not taken that responsibility and took care of what was the real need there, and that was to have something that was going to bury them when death occurred.
Well, we're gonna take a commercial break at this time, but we will be back, so you want to stay tuned because we have some more great important information we need to share with you. Well, they don't have a commercial break. I guess I just done good.
Am I okay?
Yeah, you're doing good.
My nose is trying to run, and I was trying to sniff. It only bothers me in the heat of the summer. I carry some Benadryl. I took like 4 of them to try to dry this up before I got here.
Yeah. You've done an excellent job. We're gonna
Okay.
I'm gonna come back on and I guess explain about life insurance, the difference between getting a life policy and a pre-need.
Okay.
Do that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I can do that.
Okay. All right. Welcome back to Empower Now. I'm your host, Pastor Stanley Cofer, and we're so happy to have Miss Alva in the studio with us. And I hope that those of you that are listening to this broadcast on today, that you really take time to consider about placing yourself and your family members into a good insurance policy, which is so very important. So, Ms. Alva, some people may not understand how the life insurance work, and pre-need, and sometimes people wondering, it's whole life, there's term life, there's universal life, Sometimes people can get kind of confused about, what I need or what have you. So could you kind of just explain, the benefits and just the guts of life insurance policy?
Okay. Yes, Pastor. Life insurance, as I said earlier, is also burial insurance. It's just terminology. Life insurance can be purchased on an infant at the age of 0 up to the age of 85, which is where most companies go as far as age brackets. And you can purchase anywhere from $1,000, which is not a good amount to start with at all in this day and time. But back in the day when we needed burial insurance, there were a lot of $1,000 policies sold, and there are a lot of those still out there that come to the funeral home when death has occurred. But life insurance is just what it says, life. We need it for the rest of our lives. We need it to protect in the event that we die too early, and of course to protect and pay for a funeral when death does occur. Life insurance, I like to think of it as being able to pay for that funeral and leave some money back with the survivors.
Exactly.
Leave some money on top of the ground for the survivors, for their lives, so that they can continue. We've consistently, when death has occurred in our families, we tend to not have been able to pass on wealth as it has been done in the other communities, in the Caucasian community in particular. They were always able to pass on wealth, and this is done through life insurance. We were passing on debt and have passed on debt to our families through burial insurance, as we were taught to call it, because that's what we thought that we needed, was just burial insurance. Consequently, that burial insurance plan gets used up and nothing was left for those survivors. And that's where our families have, I think, been not given the best situation for our lives. Now, pre-arranging is a new term to many families today because we've only talked about burial and life, and of course you mentioned whole life and term life and universal life, and I'll just quickly just kind of go over those. Whole life means, yes, you're going to pay for this policy for you the rest of your life. Right now, the insurance companies, the good companies, consider life being up to an age 121. Many companies, especially those that we might see advertised, may stop at 85, but we are living longer now. And so we need policies that are going to last a lot longer than age 85. So that's whole life insurance. Now, term life insurance, I do like to provide term life insurance, but for the younger families with children. They're buying a home, they got children that they're raising, and they're trying to get them up to be adults, and that is where term life fits in real well because it can protect the lives of the family during those growing up years when it's really important to have something left. In the event the husband or the wife passed on, then something is left there for them to survive on.
Yeah.
And then universal life is kind of a combination of term and whole life insurance. Whole life has cash value, universal life has cash value. But I like for my people to know that cash value on insurance is something that we want to leave in our policies. We've not been explained to how the cash value should work. We've been told that that is money that we can just pull out of insurance policies. You can do that. However, you have to pay it back because it's a loan. It's a loan from your face amount of your insurance policy. And if you don't pay that loan back, then that loan grows. And over time, that could eat up the face amount of your insurance policy. And you don't find this out until you're at the funeral home with your loved one has passed on, and now you need that insurance to take care of that funeral. And the insurance company is going to recover their loan and all the interest that has not been paid back during the course of that period of time that loan has been out there. So we need to understand completely what taking money out of an insurance policy means, because that has been devastating to families. I've seen it happen too many times at the funeral home when they need that policy and they find out that they're not getting all the money back. So whole life is what we really need for taking care of the funeral at the time that funerals occur. But we've got pre-need now, which is basically like a whole life, can be a whole life paid up policy that we write up that covers the cost of a funeral service. I'm with the Harmon Funeral Home here in Tyler most of the time, working with families who come in to make preparations for the final to make preparations for burying the loved one. And when that time comes, it's important to have the monies available to pay for that funeral service. A funeral service starts from the moment that you call the funeral home and I always say, until you put a marker on the grave. We sometimes don't remember that that marker on that grave is very important if we're going to have a burial. Some are choosing cremation now, and that is an option that is available to families. But burial is what we have been accustomed to.
Yeah.
And so burial starts with the first call, and that's when the funeral home is called to pick up the remains from where death has occurred. And then if we're going to have a funeral and the casket's going to be open for viewing our loved ones, and that loved one has to be embalmed. And there's a mortician involved there. That's a special person that has a license, who's qualified and who has to keep up their license licensing to do mortician work. And one